What a headshot! What a head!
How's it, guys? This is Dayvy, FPL, and welcome back to the Fantasy Premier League video here on my channel. Now in this video, I'll be taking you through the ultimate guide to the upcoming Game Week 7. So super excited to be back on these ultimate guide videos for multiple reasons. The first one being that we haven't actually made one of these in quite a while, and therefore it'll be quite good to get a stats refresh. The second reason is obviously on the wildcard. This is kind of a nice base to get in terms of the stats, and also be discussing some wildcard dilemmas that I'm personally having. So as always, we're going to start off with a stats review and end with a Camsey debate, and we have talking points sprinkled in like Kulusevski versus Johnson. So hopefully those talking points are to your guys' liking, and if they are, sit back, relax, and let's get right into them. So the first talking point is going to be the team stats, going over the attacking numbers and then the defensive numbers, going over the top 6 and the bottom 6 teams. Now let's start off this ultimate guide with quite a nice XG non-penalty stat, and on the left hand side you guys can see the top 6 teams. Now these stats are per 90 minutes as well, so therefore Spurs have gotten 2.35 XG non-penalty per game. Now you guys know I do prefer the non-penalty variant, just a bit more consistent, and there actually haven't been a lot of penalties this Premier League season. Now the number one team there might be a surprise to you guys as it was for myself, but that Spurs team is red hot in terms of the attack. They actually have quite a lead over Liverpool, who I was expecting to be the number one attack, and those two teams are followed by Arsenal, Man City, Aston Villa and Chelsea. Now you guys would have seen over these kind of game weeks there were some spicy teams here, but as the game weeks go on we normalize to the mean, and all 6 teams on screen I probably would have predicted would have been the best attacks. Just finding how things kind of average out as the fixtures go along, 6 game weeks of data is probably the minimum that you guys want. So definitely my main eyes will be on these teams in terms of our wildcard. Luckily though, I'm targeting basically every one of these teams' attacks. The only team I'm missing out on is going to be Liverpool, but they have some tough fixtures coming up. So just a reminder on that point, over the opening 6 games, some teams have had easier fixtures than others. But that Spurs team definitely has my attention. If you guys watched my wildcard draft video, I was deciding between 2 Spurs options, or going for Havertz and McNeil. Going for those 2 Spurs options might be actually the play, with some great fixtures coming up, so all eyes on that one. In terms of the rest of the teams, as expected, pretty predictable, so let's go over the worst attacks. Now you might be wondering why I'm going over these teams, as you obviously won't be targeting them, but it's kind of for 2 reasons. The first one is please avoid these attacks in terms of transfers, and the second one is to target these teams for your defenders. So let's bring them up on screen. For example, if your defender's facing Leicester, the chance of a clean sheet might be quite strong, but they did just wipe out the double up in the Arsenal defense last week. They followed by Ipswich, Wolves, Everton, Forest and finally Newcastle. A bit worried by those Everton numbers as I was looking at Calvert-Lewin or McNeil. Newcastle's start to the season hasn't been great, but they just drew to Man City, so this could be a turnaround. But like the left hand side, the right hand side has some kind of predictable options, but some of these teams have had very hard fixtures, for example Wolves. So it's not kind of a set rule to target the teams on the left and avoid on the right, but the numbers don't lie at the end of the day. But now let's go over those defensive numbers, and the teams on the left have the best expected clean sheets. And once again, Spurs are really surprising me. Now their fixtures haven't been the easiest but also not the hardest, but these numbers are mighty impressive. Same could be said about a team like Fulham, under the radar at the moment, but the fixtures have been a little bit easier. But who do they play this week? Oh, that's right, Man City. So you can push your agenda one way or the other. The one way is saying they're a strong defense, therefore Haaland blanks. Or you can say these numbers are going to go down as they're going to face the robot. So let's see what actually happens, but interesting to see that Fulham's numbers are so good. Could we be in for another Haaland blank? Speaking about Haaland, he's separated by Liverpool, and then Forest and Arsenal are after them. All these teams have had very strong starts to the season defensively. I'm quite worried about not going for Trent on my wildcard against Crystal Palace, but the fixtures after that do get a lot tougher, and therefore these numbers might regress. Interested to see there that Arsenal are so low, and in 2 game weeks time, the next 3 fixtures are very tough. The one thing I am looking at though is Nottingham Forest. In terms of my goalkeeper, I was either going to go for Flecken or for Sells. Maybe the Forest keeper is the better option. I'm looking to double up on Man City or Arsenal in terms of defense, as they're always historically quite strong. The one team I am looking at maybe for a cheaper option like a Van de Ven might be Spurs though, but the fixtures upcoming don't really scream clean sheets to me. The teams on the right hand side also don't scream clean sheets, and I've sorted them according to XG conceded. Now the reason this is not going to be kind of expected clean sheets is I don't really care about these teams losing the clean sheet. I want to see how many goals they're conceding. This will allow us to target teams that are conceding a ton of chances, especially with those Camsey decisions. So at the top there's going to be Leicester. You Semenyo owners are probably liking this a lot, and there's quite a big drop off between them and Ipswich. We then have Everton, Brentford, Man United, and finally Newcastle. Newcastle once again getting off to not the best start to the season. Now United, I kind of regret selling Ollie Watkins and potentially not going from on my wildcard. A double up of him and Rodgers against this United team might actually be golden. Then that Everton defense, will it actually improve or not? I'm going to probably go for Mikalenko as my cheap option, but would have liked to have seen these numbers be a little bit better under Dyche. The two teams definitely to target though are going to be Leicester and Ipswich. Surprised to see Southampton not being here, but let's see what happens after that Arsenal fixture. All these teams though unfortunately haven't got off to the best start, so therefore I'd probably target them, but I guess they could always turn it around in any game week. These numbers might be kind of less insightful than the attacking numbers though. The kind of more defensive teams are easy to recommend, but on the right hand side target these teams for those Camsey decisions. Maybe even a benching one. If you're looking to bench Rodgers, this might change your mind. That United team has been conceding quite a lot of XG. Now the next part of the video, and probably my favorite, is going to be the projections for clean sheets as well as projected goals, and this is from the SpreadX data. So let's bring up all the fixtures on screen right now, and as you guys can see, home and away as well as the rating with the color combination. Now I'll give you guys the order once again. Green are the top 5, we then go to grey, finally pink, and the bottom 5 teams are maroon. And that should help you identify which teams to target. Now I'm going to continue on the defensive train of thought, and these are the expected clean sheets. Arsenal and Man City coming up with a pretty respectable number. Then quite a drop off to Liverpool as well as Chelsea before finally West Ham. That Arsenal clean sheet might actually be locked in. So now you guys can see why I'm targeting on a wild card, going for maybe a double up in one of these sides, as the clean sheet chance is so high, but I guess with Man City doesn't matter. Might just be a freak defensive mistake that costs them the clean sheet, and I guess Edison is always between the sticks. But after them we have a drop off to kind of your grey digits. You can see Brentford, Bournemouth as well as Newcastle have pretty good numbers, but the odds are predicting quite a few goals in that Aston Villa and United game. Even more goals will probably be coming from Brighton against Spurs. You guys can see bottom right hand side, not a lot of clean sheets projected there. Otherwise that Brentford Wolves game might be quite a boring one with both teams in that grey area, but the matchups this week proved to be quite interesting. Now if you want to target a specific game, definitely the Southampton one for Arsenal is where it's at. Otherwise the Man City and Chelsea games and the Liverpool one could have goals in them. Now you guys can pause the screen if you want to and go over these numbers in a bit more depth, but I'm going to go into the projected goals. So the projected goals debate is going to be very strong this week, and pay attention because the Camsey debate might come down to this. As you guys can see, there's a fixture that you guys should be targeting. Now I spoke about this, but that Arsenal game for me has to be targeted from an attacking versus a defensive point of view, as 3.05 expected goals is simply sensational. We then have a little bit of a drop off for the Man City one, where most of us will be captaining Erling Haaland, and that makes sense as his goal share is probably higher than someone like a Saka. But definitely that Arsenal game, if you guys don't have Arsenal coverage, I would get some pretty quickly, as if 3 is the projection and that might be quite conservative, who knows what's going to happen. Otherwise those Chelsea and Liverpool projections are looking pretty good, as well as West Ham and probably Spurs. Now as projected, that Brighton Spurs game is going to have a ton of goals in it, both teams projecting over 1 goal, whereas the Brentford Wolves game might be slightly boring. Now the inverse of the kind of defensive numbers will be here in terms of projected goals. As you guys can see, Fulham, Southampton not projecting the most. But definitely that Arsenal game is where I'm going to be looking, as well as Man City for the obvious Haaland captaincy. Now the one thing I want to point out, probably Aston Villa not expecting the most goals from them, which is actually quite surprising as I would have put them higher. But just the debate for myself, I was either deciding between Dom Solanke and someone like a Havertz. In terms of this game week, Arsenal completely blow Spurs out the water. But who scores more this game week, Dom Solanke or Havertz? Also nice to see Cole Palmer with a pretty respectable 2.25. He's on fire at the moment. But once again, like the defensive numbers, you guys can pause the screen if you want to go over them again. Let's get on to the other talking points. So the next talking point I want to go over is going to be a brief review of the kind of Spurs midfielders, as I'm looking at Kulusevski or Johnson. Now both come in at the same price points, around 6.4 or 6.2, so both should be pretty affordable. Now both also super differential, I think under 2%, but if you guys are bringing one in this week, who are you guys going for? Now I mentioned this, those kind of Spurs fixtures are looking pretty good, the next two especially, as I'm expecting pretty open games that will probably favour Spurs. Now for me, in terms of these two players, it seems like Johnson is playing more of an attacking role, where Kulusevski might be more of an assister. What does worry me though is Johnson has been subbed pretty early in all the games, and doesn't seem like to me there's much competition for his kind of spot. Kulusevski on the other hand has been playing slightly deeper I guess, but playing 90 minutes, so could be more nailed, and that's what you want in FPL. So in terms of that debate, Kulusevski might be the slightly better pick in terms of consistency. Don't you know why Johnson's being subbed so early? But let's go over those numbers, and the numbers do back up kind of the goal scoring versus assisting role, with Johnson coming in with more XG, but Kulu coming in with more XA. In terms of actual points scored per 90 minutes, Johnson currently leading with 6.11, but he's overperforming slightly with 5.76 expected FPL points. Kulusevski on the other hand is underperforming with 5.5 compared to 4.7, but very close in terms of the expected FPL points. But I would probably conclude as I do prefer Johnson because of his more attacking threat. Just hope that Ange doesn't sub him off too early in the future games. If you are a Spurs fan though, drop it in the comments down below, what's your opinion? As mentioned, if I had to pick one, probably Johnson. Now the last debate to go over is going to be all about the captaincy decision, and this week it's actually quite an interesting one. A lot of great home fixtures. So the three options I want to talk about, the first one's going to be Erling Haaland, the ever consistent blanked in game week 6 though, with that Fulham at home game. Now he has the highest projected points according to Fix with 7.8, but with those strong Fulham defensive numbers, could they actually put up a fight? Probably not. I think that Erling Haaland is going to score, it just depends on how many, and that's where Saka comes into the debate. So as you guys can see, Southampton at home, definitely the best game in the Prem at the moment, with projected points of 7.7. So because it's so close between them, I would give the edge to Saka in terms of projected points, as he gets an extra point per goal as well as the clean sheet point. So for me, Saka is actually one player that I'm considering for the Kamsi armband, as I believe that game is going to have so many goals in it. Now I mentioned this over the numbers, but in terms of kind of goal share, Haaland will be more involved, but Saka's assisting threat is also going to be there. So between these two, it's actually quite close in my opinion. I currently have it on Haaland, but I am tempted by Saka. But if I do go for a double up with Havertz, I might go for Haaland as my sole Man City attacker. The last option I want to talk about might be points chasing, but Cole Palmer is definitely up there with that fixture against Nottingham Forest. Now Forest, like Fulham, do also put up some respective defensive numbers, but I do expect Chelsea to score and Cole Palmer to be involved. Palmer also the only one who didn't play any midweek football and therefore is fully rested, and that Chelsea attack has been pretty ruthless over the past few games. Now as expected, probably slightly less projected points, but could actually be the best option in the game at the moment. So literally between these three, you might as well spin the wheel and let it decide, because it's so close between them in my opinion. If I had to guess in terms of kind of Kamsi or effective ownership, Haaland definitely going to be leading it, but Saka definitely up there for me in terms of overall ceiling. But let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. This week might be absolutely split. Who are you guys going for, or are you guys going to go for someone completely differential? Shout out to Mo Salah against Crystal Palace. Literally so many good options this week. This could be a massive kind of gains week. If you pick the captain that scores the most points, hello Green Arrow. So if you guys think you got the best Kamsi option, drop it in the comments down below, or any other kind of debates that you guys are having. Join my Discord server and ask your talking points over there, as I am more active, or on Twitter, both links in the description. This is basically a wrap for you guys. Hope you guys did enjoy it. Please don't forget to like if you didn't subscribe if you have subscribed yet. Tons of content still to come. Potential final wildcard draft tomorrow and the deadline stream, where we will be locking in that wildcard team. But for the time being, I'm signing off. It's been Dayvy FPL and I'm out. Cheers, bye.